So where are the big concerns? What threads of information, video clips are you looking for over the past next month before that first game to feel better about this football team in key areas?
Mark, on a side note, just as, I joke with people, but it's so true. It's funny how football moves the needle because I'll post a highlight from a baseball game or a basketball game, like an actual on the field game, and it does well, right? It gets a certain amount of views. I could post a video of tomorrow fall camp begins. I could post a video of Spencer Rattler throwing a football into a net, and it'll break the internet. You know what I mean? So like, it's crazy how that happens, but. I don't know if there's really any specific clip or video or intel from fall camp that's going to make me feel like, oh, well, that question's answered and we don't have to worry about it because it is fall camp, right? We're not going to know until you go hit somebody else. I think the areas of concern, I mean, listen, I try my best, again, to be the voice of reason, the voice of perspective, and just keep people grounded because I think it is important and I think it's healthy to have realistic expectations. That's not saying don't be excited, don't be hyped. Listen, as a Gamecock fan, you should be hyped. I am hyped. I wouldn't be rocking Rattler's name on my merch, Beamer's name on my merch, if I wasn't hyped and excited about what these men are going to do for South Carolina football. With that being said, when you look at the question marks on this team, you got to start with the offensive line because I don't give a damn. You added Rattler, you added Wells, you added Stogg, you got Bell back, you got Juju, you got Marshawn, Corey Rucker's added. You go down the list, all these guys. If the offensive line is as bad as it was last year, none of it matters. And you're fighting to get to 6 wins yet again. We're talking about a line that gave up, 32 sacks a season ago, one of the worst in the country at running the football, right? And it was mind-boggling, Mark, at times, right? I mean, the most inexplicable loss last year, I think, was the game at Mizzou because Mizzou ranked dead last in the conference. They gave up 227 yards per game on the ground. South Carolina ran for 56 yards. It made no sense, right? And so you return all these guys, you got all this experience, but I think you and I would agree, Mark, experience at times can be a little bit overrated because it's like I'd rather have a 5-star freshman who has incredible upside than a senior who ain't worth a damn. I'm sorry, but like experience isn't everything. But with that being said, there are a lot of guys on that offensive line who have played good football. There were a lot of guys on that offensive line that were on that 2020 team that paved the way for Kevin Harris to lead the SEC in rushing. So you think second year in the system. Also, here's a key tidbit. Greg Atkins, the offensive line coach, missed a lot of last season with health issues. He's back. He's healthy. He's good. Having him there in the fold week after week, I think, should help this team. And again, just second year in the system under Marcus Satterfield should help. Other concerns offensively, I think it comes to just Spencer Rattler. And is he going to play at the level we hope and expect? And just how good is he going to be? Running back, I think you have questions to answer there, but I feel like those will be answered. You've got enough quality bodies to find out who RB1 is. Really, Marshawn Lloyd and his status is the big question there. And I think if he pans out the way we hope, that will help answer a lot of the questions with that room. I still think at wide receiver, I think you still have questions there. Listen, Josh Vann broke out. I don't think he's getting enough respect going into this season. Antoine Wells is a guy that's being very highly touted, the record setter from James Madison, but he's never taken a snap in the SEC. You know what I mean? It's a lot different going from James Madison to SEC football. Corey Rucker's another one. Hey, I saw he was on a preseason award list. He's coming from Arkansas State. This is not Arkansas State. You're not going to see DBs that you saw at Arkansas State. So is he going to pan out? And then beyond those guys, right? Jaheim Bell needs to show he can do it on a week-in, week-out basis. I think he can. But
people love Jaheim Bell.
Yeah, I mean, he's a Swiss Army knife type of guy, but he just needs to show it. He just needs to prove it, right? That he can be, our fans were upset. He's not an all-conference guy. I'm like, well, look at his numbers. I mean, he didn't put up crazy numbers last year. He didn't really become Jaheim Bell until that bowl game, I feel like. So he needs to do it on a week-in, week-out basis. And they just need to show offensively, with Marcus Satterfield calling the plays, that all these weapons are going to come together. That's the big thing. I don't think anybody doubts that the individual pieces, the Gamecocks have them offensively. It's just, will they come together and the sum of those parts be what is a top 50 productive offense and offense scoring 30 points per game or more? I think that's the magic number for Carolina. And then defensively, Mark, my questions lie around number one, stopping the run. You couldn't do it worth a damn last year. You just could not stop the run. And you got a lot of guys back, similar faces on that defensive front. Shane Beamer, I don't know if you've heard this, by the way, Mark, has gone out multiple times and said, defensive tackles are the strength of our football team, which I kind of sat back in my chair and was like, okay, this is different. This is different. Now, if you're saying that, that run defense better be improved. You can't just tout that all preseason and that run defense not make somewhat of an improvement. I'm not saying being one of the best in the SEC, but the Gamecocks were near the bottom. Linebacker has been a question mark forever. Listen, you get Sherrod Green back from injury, which I think is huge. A freshman, Stone Blanton, figures to be in the mix. You got Mo Kaba back. You got Brad Johnson back. But the linebackers have been an eyesore for South Carolina over the past, I'd say 5, 6, 7 years. I mean, Carolina's always kind of had like a guy that's sort of the thumper in the middle, but as a whole, the depth there, I think they've been part of the reason why you haven't been able to stop the run. And then we feel good about the secondary, right? Cam Smith's leading the group. But my big question with the Gamecocks defense back there, you lose Jalen Foster, who was your All-American safety, your turnover getter, had 6 interceptions. You insert Devontae Reed, who comes from Central Michigan. Again, never played in the SEC before, so we don't know what he's going to be. And then my big question for the defense is just, you lived off turnovers last year. You made a living. A lot of games swung in Carolina's favor because of a timely turnover. Will South Carolina's defense be able to produce turnovers at that rate? And if they can't, can they still be a productive defense? Can they still be a defense good enough to complement this offensive attack? Again, that's looking at, because I think there's 3 ways, Mark, to look at this season. There is the pessimistic view, there's the garnet glasses optimistic view, and then there's the realistic view. So like what I try to do is try to give both sides, because if you just listen to that tidbit and you heard nothing else, you think, God, Chris thinks this team's going to be terrible. But I think there's real question marks of why this team could take a step back. I think there's real reasons why this team could take a step forward. I think the truth lies somewhere in the middle, right? It's unrealistic to expect that all the questions that I just mentioned, they're all going to work out in Carolina's favor. I think it's also unrealistic to say that all those questions are going to work out negatively. The truth will probably lie somewhere in the middle. Some of the things will exceed expectations. Some of the things will fall short of expectations, and some will kind of fall right there in the middle. But I think there are real question marks around Carolina football, which is why I've set the worst case for Carolina. I say 5-7. Realistically, I'd be shocked if this team won less than 6 games. I just, unless there's injuries, which knock on wood, there are none. If there's no injuries, I'd be just completely floored if Carolina went worse than 6-6. But I put the best case at 8-4. I think there's too many question marks to say this team's going to win 9 games or more. Because basically at that point, you're saying Carolina wins all their swing games. And that's just unrealistic to me. So, I know that was a bit of a long-winded answer, Mark, but I feel like probably you having me on your show, you've gotten used to long-winded answers at this point. But
that's why we got you here, Chris. We want to hear from you.
Yeah, but again, I will very quickly bring a Gamecock fan back down to earth and be like, hey, because I just think it's healthy, Mark. Like, I'm on Shane Beamer's side. It's year 2. They're not going to have all the answers yet. Carolina's not where Georgia is. They're not where A&M is. They're not where, Alabama is. They're not even probably where like a LSU is, right? Like there's Tennessee. There's still questions there, right? But on that note, if the Gamecocks are going to, why can't the Gamecocks, I'd say, be this year's Arkansas? Why can't they break out and win 8 games, 9 with a bowl win? I mean, why can't it happen? The pieces are there, but some of those question marks I mentioned have got to work out in Carolina's favor.